because a lot of times people will come to our office and they'll sign these documents, we'll explain everything to them, and there's a lot of unanticipated costs that they'll kind of, not plan for, whether it's land transfer tax, if it's in Toronto, double land transfer tax, title insurance, home insurance. You'd be surprised at how many people are like, why do I have to get home insurance? Well, the bank requires it.
I saw a story about a couple who walked away from $140,000 they had put down on a new build. But have you seen times like this previously, or is this kind of a lot going on at once?
To be quite honest, no. This is the first time I'm seeing anything like this because there's so many things happening. It's hard to keep track of, what's happening in the market. A lot of people say, like, so what are you seeing that's different? And I'm like, a lot. Yeah. Right.
Welcome to the Little Did You Know podcast. My name is Morgan Little. Big shout out to Nikhil here with me from Marathon Law. He is going to give us a law masterclass today, so stay tuned. Okay, so Nikhil. It's pronounced Nikhil?
Yep, you nailed it.
Okay. Marathon Law, lawyer, real estate lawyer. We're into litigation for a bit, right? What else can I put in your intro here?
So I used to be a litigation lawyer for about 2.5 years. I was working at a firm in downtown. I made the move to a mid-sized firm that practiced specifically real estate and family back in about, I would say, 2017.
Okay.
After I learned everything from my mentor, I went off on my own. I became a partner at a firm in Vaughan. I sold my share in that firm in approximately December of 2022. Marathon Law was born about in, I would say, March of 2023, this year. And it's been good so far. Like, we've been gaining a lot of traction.
Right.
We're about 2 lawyers. We have 4 support staff. We're growing. We got 2 offices, one in Mississauga and one in Vaughan.
Very cool.
It's been a good journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
No complaints.
So I didn't realize how deep that your law journey had gone, because just looking at your socials briefly, I was like, when did you come in, man? I only saw content, not that long ago. So that's good to know that you're that deep into it. Awesome. So Marathon Law, was that you're a founder, one of the founders? You part of that?
Yeah. So Marathon Law was my firm that I founded, and I was trying to go more of a not a corporate route, but I kind of wanted to create more of a business. Yeah. In the law aspect of things, and there's other firms that are doing the same thing. So I didn't want to go the traditional way of putting my last name on the wall.
So it's not Nikhil Marathon.
No. It used to be Nikhil Bajaj Law. Okay. And I'm like, this name doesn't really sound that great.
Right.
So Marathon Law was kind of born out of just hearing sayings about how life's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I was a huge fan.
Rest in peace, Nipsey.
Yeah. So so it's funny because a lot of people ask me this. They're like, oh, did you get your inspiration from Nipsey Hussle? I'm like, I grew up listening to Nipsey Hussle, and one of the reasons I got into real estate was because he always talked about real estate. Yeah. I'm an investor like yourself as well. So the name was actually inspired by Nipsey Hussle, the marathon.
Very cool. Okay.
And then just kind of took that, ran with it. I asked other people around me, like, what do you think about the name? They loved it. It's a positive name. It's very relevant to what we do. Law is a marathon. It's never ending.
For sure.
I've been the sole owner of Marathon Law. We will have another partner joining us next year. So he's a lawyer that works at the firm, but it's been good so far.
Awesome. Yeah. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I appreciate
Well, I'm glad we connected. We were put together through Martin, who's a mortgage broker. We had a client he was getting a mortgage from. The lawyer that I introduced them to, kind of interestingly enough, I hadn't run into this before. They had a conflict with the bank.
Oh, okay.
So they would not work with that bank. And so Martin recommended you, and here we are.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you keeping us in mind.
For sure.
I've known Martin for a long time. We went to college together, so
yeah. Okay, awesome.
Good mortgage broker. So.
Perfect. Yeah. We had him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Congratulations on all that. Sounds like it's doing really well. And so do you specify? Is it just real estate that you focus on, or?
Yeah, so we do mainly real estate law. We also dabble in corporate and wills and estates.
Right.
On the real estate side, we mainly do private lending, residential real estate, and commercial. Okay. We do get a lot of litigation files, which we're trying to kind of refer to other referral partners that we work with. Okay. The plan is to keep litigation files in-house because, unfortunately, there is a lot of litigation happening in the market right now.
Right, okay.
But right now, primarily, we're just focusing on real estate law.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was talking about this in our last episode with another realtor, how I don't want this to just be like real estate content for realtors. I want end users, first time home buyers, upsizers, downsizers, to be able to get value out of this. So let's start from the basics. For people who are like, okay, I know I need a lawyer at some point in a real estate transaction. Where do you step in?
I think the best time to retain a lawyer is, same time around you're retaining a realtor and a mortgage broker, only so you can kind of plan costs. You can understand what the process is like. A lot of people, what they do is they end up buying a property, they get approved, and then they'll take a trip somewhere. Right. Happens more often than you think.
Yes.
We're experiencing it with 3 closings this week.
Yeah.
So I would say like early on is probably the best time, only so you understand the process and how involved you have to be from the get-go. I mean, at the end of the day, it's good to also speak to your mortgage broker or your realtor and see if they have a referral partner that they work with. You just jump on a phone call, kind of understand how the process works. Yeah. Because a lot of times people will come to our office and they'll sign these documents. We'll explain everything to them, and there's a lot of unanticipated costs that they'll kind of not plan for. Whether it's land transfer tax, if it's in Toronto, double land transfer tax, title insurance, home insurance. You'd be surprised at how many people are like, "Why do I have to get home insurance?" Well, the bank requires it. Yeah. So I would say early.
And you should probably want it.
Yeah. Exactly. So early on, the earlier the better, just so they can kind of plan for any unexpected costs.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So we'll just preface all of this with this is not legal advice.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So this is just for informational purposes, and I hope this helps. But can we talk about some of those costs? Because I think there's probably a lot of confusion around that too. Is you just mentioned a lot of costs that wouldn't cross people's minds. So what are some of the like basic costs, like just closing costs, and then some of those extras that you mentioned?
Yeah, so it depends on whether you're closing on a pre-construction or whether it's just a resale. So resale costs, normally you have your legal fees, which can range anywhere from, let's say you're buying a property, and again, these prices might change based on inflation in the future. So for a purchase, generally anywhere from $1,300 to $1,500. That's kind of the average cost in the GTA. There are law firms that charge a little bit more. Yeah. Obviously, the quality of work also reflects the cost. Right. Title insurance is something that a lot of people don't anticipate. Yeah. So title insurance really just depends on the property price, also where it's located. You have to get title insurance for yourself, but you also have to get title insurance for the bank as well. Okay. So if you're getting a loan on the property through a Schedule A bank, B bank, or a private lender, one of the conditions that they have is you have to have title insurance and you have to have home insurance. Okay. And again, that price fluctuates. It can be $350. It can be $2,000. Depends on the price of the property and the location of the property. Because if there's a lot of claims in that area, your policy might be more expensive. If there's issues pertaining to that property, your title insurance can be a little bit more expensive.
And so is title insurance mandatory at this point?
If you are going through a lender, 99% of the time, they will require title insurance. Right. Schedule A banks, 100% of the time. Schedule B banks, 100% of the time. Private lenders, I've yet to see a private lender that doesn't ask for title insurance because it protects their interest against fraud and other issues as well. For sure. Unpaid property taxes, those kind of things. So title insurance, if you're not getting a mortgage, we always recommend clients to get it regardless, because if you're buying a property for, $1 million, what's, $500, $600 going to really do to you? Right. It's going to protect you against fraud. Yeah. It's going to protect you against any outstanding liens against the property that might come up in the future. If you retain a lawyer, it's going to be a lot more expensive.
And is this always been this way, or is this more of a new thing that it's becoming more common, more mandatory?
Title insurance? Yeah. Since I've been in the industry, title insurance by banks has always been mandatory. I see more and more people that are even buying cash, getting title insurance, and we always recommend them to get title insurance only because there's a lot of fraud in the market. Yeah. I don't know if you've read those articles about people going on vacation, coming back, someone's living in their house. Yeah. So I think that it's becoming more common for people to get it that are not getting a mortgage, for sure.
Have you been seeing an increased amount of claims? Or is it not necessarily your department that you would see it?
So we are seeing a lot more claims. A lot of the claims that we do see are outstanding property taxes. Okay. So whenever we close a purchase or a refinance, we always request a tax certificate. Okay. Sometimes lawyers may not, only because title insurance will protect you against any arrears in property taxes. So a lot of times people might contact us after they've closed with another law firm and say, hey, Nick, I know I didn't use you for the closing, but there's outstanding property tax for $23,000 on this property that I just bought. Wow. I said, did you get title insurance? They're like, yeah. So I'll help them make a claim to get compensated.
Okay,
for that.
so you're part of that process of making a claim.
We do help. We do help clients make claims. We don't kind of leave them hanging. It's the same thing if you would go through your home insurance policy, you would contact them, but we do facilitate that for clients.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So full service.
Full service, yeah. We've never had that issue because we request tax certificates for every single closing. Even though it's a cost imposed on the client, we just think that it's better and it avoids any future headaches.
Okay. Yeah. And so other costs, you mentioned Toronto land transfer tax. A lot of people don't necessarily realize that there's double land transfer tax.
Correct, yeah. So if you're buying in Toronto, there is double land transfer tax. If you're outside of Toronto, you're paying the standard, whatever the standard is. It uses a formula based on the purchase price. Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize if you are closing on a property within, like, let's say Etobicoke, Scarborough, anywhere that falls within the district of Toronto, there is that double land transfer tax. Yeah. But again, if you're buying the property as a first-time home buyer and you meet that criteria where it's going to be your primary residence, you haven't owned a home anywhere in the world, you would be eligible for a double rebate essentially. Right?
Oh, so you get a double rebate.
Correct.
Okay,
in Toronto.
good to know. Yeah.
So
that's interesting. Yeah. And that's can be a huge amount of money.
Massive. Yeah. Massive. Yeah.
Big. Wow. Any other fees that people should be aware of?
So I would say land transfer tax, title insurance are probably the biggest fees. Yeah. So one of the fees that people don't anticipate are execution searches. So every single property that we represent a buyer on, or even a refinance, we do something called an execution search. Okay. What is that? Those are basically searches that we do off title in the sheriff's office to see if there's any litigation against the sellers. If the bank wants us to do it against the buyers, we have to do it against the buyers as well. It's a very nominal cost. It depends where you're pulling the execution search from. But just to give you an example, we did one recently, and the seller had maybe like $20,000-$30,000 against them in execution searches. In litigation against them. So the execution search was probably $50-$60, which we impose on our client only because we have to do those searches to protect our buyer. Right. If it's actually them, they have to remove that lien from their name and pay it out. If it's not them, they have to do something called a same name affidavit. If it's above, I think it's about $50,000, they have to technically get a clearance letter done. So the seller's lawyer would actually have to go and request a clearance letter to make sure that it's not this person and it won't follow the property. Right. And that's a cost that they impose on their seller. So if we're representing the seller, we would impose it on the seller. If we represent the buyer and do searches against them and the seller, we would impose it on the buyer. Right. So again, nominal cost.
But this can cause delays potentially as well, right?
It could if you don't do it early on. We do execution searches right when we receive the file. So as soon as we pull title, we also do execution searches. Sometimes if you wait last minute, then it may cost some time to get a clearance letter from the lawyer that registered the execution. So it's something you want to do early on for sure.
And so another reason to start early. Contact a lawyer early.
Correct.
Yeah. Right. Okay, great. And so there's been a lot of power of sale, foreclosures, all that kind of stuff happening. Are you seeing an increase of it?
We are. Yeah. We've had a couple of deals, two specifically, that were firm, and there was a writ of possession issued against both properties. So they had to get a mutual release sign and walk away. But in my head, I was thinking, I'm like, what if the seller doesn't say that I want to walk away from this deal, or the buyer says no, I found this property, it was a good price, everything else in the market is a lot more expensive, you're in a firm deal, what do you do? But technically, if there's a writ issued against the property, the bank might have ownership of the property at that point. Right. So now you're in a firm deal, but you essentially, the seller sold something that they may not own. Right. But in those two scenarios, we got mutual releases signed. I don't know what happened with the properties, but there was writ of possessions against both those properties that we had. Yeah. Because
it wouldn't really obviously the buyer, I guess, could go after the seller at that point, but
it could.
What are you going to get from that, really? You're going to spend more money, more time to...
Yeah. Litigation is expensive, right? Yeah. So a lot of people have in the back of their mind that I'm going to sue this person. But at the end of the day, how much time, how much money is it going to really cost you? Are you going to be able to be made whole? Or does it make sense to just get a mutual release sign, move on, and find something better?
And so in those scenarios, if the bank is taking possession, are they not now selling the property?
So that would be their first move to basically try to sell the property.
Yeah.
There's also usually something called a right of redemption, which is that the seller can approach the lender and say, you know what, we have a buyer, but you would have to get a updated information statement from the bank to see how much money is outstanding.
Right.
Because not only is it the amount that you owe to the bank, there's interest, there's legal fees that they're going to tack on. So you want a payout statement to make sure you have enough to pay out the bank, enough to pay out the realtor if there's a realtor involved at that point, and obviously your lawyer, which is going to be the least cost at the end of the day. And not saying that because I'm a lawyer, but generally it is.
Yeah, compared to the other costs, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
I saw a story about a couple who walked away from $140,000 they had put down on a new build, and I didn't fully grasp why because they had to come up with X amount more to be able to close. But that amount was a lot less than 140 that they were walking away from. And I get, okay, you don't have this 30,000 maybe that you have to come up with, but you're still walking away from 140,000. So, do you have any insight into that specific scenario or that kind of thing?
this is a pre-construction.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to pre-construction, and that scenario that you just told me is happening a lot, unfortunately. We have clients constantly, I would say weekly, calling us and asking us, what happens if I walk away from my deposit? Can the builder go after me? And you touched on a good point, because if it's going to cost you, let's say, long-term less money to close on this property and not lose your 140,000, it makes more sense. But a lot of people, they're looking at the short term. They're looking at, okay, no, if I get rid of this 140, I don't have to get a mortgage. I don't have to pay these monthly fees. What if rates go up? There's that fear of the unknown right now. So we've had clients who are scared to even close interim occupancy on condos. Interim occupancy essentially is before, you get title to the property if you're buying a pre-construction condo. But a lot of people are also scared of the unanticipated costs at closing, because pre-construction has other additional costs.
Right.
So if you're not occupying the property as your principal residence, there's that HST component on top. There's transaction levies that you haven't really accounted for or may have not capped. Occupancy fees, tree planting fees. If you're buying, let's say, a single family home, utility connection fees, and the list goes on. And a lot of people see this statement of adjustments and they have a heart attack. They're like, oh, wow, like I didn't expect to be imposed with all these additional costs, which are built into their original agreement of purchase and sale. So a lot of people are trying to walk away from their deposits, but a lot of people should understand is that if the builder takes a loss, they can sue you for that loss. If they keep your deposit and they're able to sell it for the same price or make more money, more likely than not, they're not going to go after you because they don't have a claim. You have to suffer a loss to sue somebody at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's happening a lot. We've seen people walk away from 200,000, 300,000. It's just something that people are thinking with emotion, but at the same time, a lot of people can't because they're not financially in a position to take on that mortgage or those occupancy fees.
And the fear, right? You mentioned the fear, and that's that short-term fear can paralyze people into making rash decisions that may not make sense and may prevent them from at least exploring the available options, right? So I'm curious, these people who are so surprised at all these fees that come up, should they not be made aware of these, and who should have made them aware of those?
So I think if you're buying pre-construction, make sure that you get it reviewed by a lawyer.
Right.
Again, if you're buying pre-construction, there's going to be additional costs at the end of the day when you go to close on the property. Obviously, if you're buying a condo, there's the interim occupancy fees. Upon final closing, there's all these additional costs. And the first question people ask us before they even send us the agreement, how much are the costs normally at the time of closing? I'm like, well, it depends on your agreement. It depends on what fees you're capping. It depends on what costs are imposed on the builder. Because if you're not capping, hypothetically, developmental charges or levies, so whatever's imposed on the builder, they're going to try to portion that cost to you at the end of the day. So I would say definitely get that agreement reviewed by a lawyer, see if they can cap certain fees, see if they can go back to the builder, maybe amend some provisions, which some lawyers will do because they're willing to work with you at the end of the day, especially in this market.
Right, where they want to find ways to close.
Because a lot of builders, unfortunately, are struggling right now to sell their properties. So when we get a agreement from a builder's lawyer, we generally rip it apart. We let our client know that this is what to expect at the time of closing. So you're going to have a little bit of reserve set aside. Right. Also, there can be delays. So if you're moving into this property and let's say you're leasing a property right now, you have plans to move out, or you're planning on selling your property and upsizing or downsizing, whatever it is, be prepared that there might be delays, which is built into the agreement as well.
Right.
Be prepared that in the market that we're in, builders can also kill projects.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What happens in those scenarios?
So, I mean, there's so much stuff happening in the market right now with builders that I won't mention that are declaring bankruptcy. And a lot of people bought during a time where, you know, maybe it was a good time to buy, not at the peak, and they're priced out of the market now, essentially. So at that point, normally the builder will return your deposit, but then it goes into the whole situation with Tarion, because Tarion normally, to the best of my knowledge, only will protect you for $20,000 of your deposit if you're buying a condo. And then I believe it's about $60,000 up to a certain price for buying a single family home. I think it's $600,000. I'd have to fact check that. Above $600,000, I think they protect $100,000 of your deposit for single family homes, freehold homes, not condos. Condos only $20,000.
Wow. Yeah.
So let's say the builder for some reason misappropriates your funds, or they don't have the money in a trust account. You've lost your deposit that you put down on this pre-construction deal.
Do you have any recourse at that point?
I mean, you could try to sue the builder, but if they declare bankruptcy, they're going to pay off their lenders. They're going to try to pay off their creditors or contractors.
You're way down the list.
You're behind, on the list. And then hopefully somebody can come in and try to salvage the deal. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening in the market right now where I think builders have over leveraged themselves, where it might be difficult for people to get their deposits back. Yeah. But only time will tell as to what's going to happen with that. So people should be aware of the risks in giving these significant deposits to these builders as well, because legally and technically those deposits should come back. But for some reason, if no one's tracking where the money's going, Tarion's going to only protect you up to a certain limit.
Right. Yeah. So for those who don't know, can you explain Tarion?
Yeah, Tarion basically, builders that are Tarion certified protects you against normally defects when it comes to a property. And I can't remember because there's so many different time frames. There's a time frame for water damage, for foundation, I think is the longest. But Tarion will protect you against any new build defects for a property. So you want to make sure that your builder is a Tarion certified builder at the end of the day, because once you have that warranty, it gives you a little bit of solace and peace of mind. But Tarion also gives you protection for your deposits that you give to the builder, as I mentioned before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I see the term receivership thrown around a lot these days. Can you touch on that a bit? Yeah.
So once a builder goes into receivership, essentially someone's appointed to try to liquidate or salvage this situation that the builder's placed in. So they'll try to pay off the creditors. So there's one particular that's happening right now in the news where they owe money to a couple lenders that are overseas. There's also contractors that haven't been paid. So in receivership, they're going to try to pay off all the creditors and try to see if this project can actually be salvaged. If someone can actually come in and buy the project and try to salvage this specific, I'm not going to name who it is, but there's one in the market that's very well known, and they're in debt for I think a couple billion right now. Right. So they're gonna essentially try to pay off all the creditors or save this new build. We'll see. I don't know.
So there's the potential for somebody to come in and save it.
There is. Yeah. There is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
hopefully.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of buyers would want, because they bought this property with the intention of either moving into it or investing in it. And this specific project was a big one because there was somebody who was actually moving in downstairs in the commercial unit. Now they're getting sued by them as well. Right. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot.
Have you seen, this? I don't think anyone's really seen this evolution of the market that we've had in a short period of time. But have you seen times like this previously, or is this kind of a lot going on at once?
To be quite honest, no. This is the first time I'm seeing anything like this because there's so many things happening. It's hard to keep track of, what's happening in the market. A lot of people say, like, so what are you seeing that's different? And I'm like, a lot. Yeah. Right. Like I mentioned, people walking away from deposits, people taking Band-Aid solutions as well, where what they'll do is they'll try to refinance a property to close on another property, or they'll take a private. We're seeing a lot of privates. We're seeing a lot of B lending deals as well in the market. We're seeing people who are behind on their mortgage payments, no fault of their own. They just didn't prepare for it. So yeah, I've never seen anything like this before. People losing their homes, unfortunately. That's probably the saddest part about our job.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, we're seeing quite a bit. And a lot of people are on edge right now. So there's a lot of emotion.
For sure.
Like I mentioned, people are thinking with emotion. They're not trying to come up with solutions. And that's not to say that's every single client. I think that some people are just kind of trying to find a easy Band-Aid solution, whether it's taking a quick private at a high interest rate, or it's walking away from a transaction where they've put 100,000 plus as a deposit on a new build.
Right.
So I just think that if you talk to the right people like yourself, like a real estate agent, there's a ways out of these situations. There's always a solution for every problem.
Right. And I mean, you know, retail buyers or, you know, end users, first time home buyers tend to be more emotional than investors per se, but investors are having a hard time now as well. And they're human as well. So, are you seeing more emotion in the investor world as well? Or is there more calculated moves in that area?
I think that a lot of investors are being aggressive right now in the market, especially people that have been buying the last 10 to 15 years.
Yep.
They're seeing opportunity in the market, so they're taking advantage of it. They're obviously making, I heard this term, insulting offers. I think it was Patrick Bet David that said, now's the time to make insulting offers. Right. So there was like one situation where we had an individual who made an offer on a 6 unit and it was listed for, I think, 1.4, and they went at, this is a little bit too insulting in my opinion, but at 675,000. Wow. Yeah. So the cap rate wasn't that great, but
yeah, it's all based on the numbers,
but he's like, you know, it's been on the market for, you know, over 150 days. Why not? So I'm seeing investors, big investors being more aggressive in this market and more, I guess, bullish in this market.
For sure. Yeah. And you know, why not? Because in that person's perspective, in the seller's perspective, it's only going to get worse from now. It's not like you're going to, in a month, you're going to have a buyer who's going to give you a price.
Yeah.
You know, maybe try to negotiate that back up a little bit, but yeah, no, it's tough for sellers right now, which is such a drastic change from what we saw recently. Yeah. So have you seen a slowdown on your end at all? Because I mean, there's definitely, you know, a seasonal slowdown, but you know, inventory is up, buyers aren't really buying right now. But are you still seeing, you know, activity on your end because you may be dealing with some of these, you know, effects of other things that have been happening, or you're dealing with investors who may still be being aggressive in buying?
I don't think we've seen a slowdown. No. We've definitely seen a slowdown when it comes to refinances. But on the buying side, a lot of our clients are investors. So we have more investors as opposed to first-time home buyers who are going into their first, you know, investment property or whether it's their primary residence. So we've been pretty busy, specifically with, I would say, privates. A lot of people lending. So we've been busy on the lending side, busy on the borrower side, but we've been pretty steady. And there was that fear that we would slow down, but for some reason, one end of the business kind of went down. One end of the business just boomed like crazy. And then we had a lot of people putting in last minute deals where they want us to do the due diligence within 48 hours because at the end of the day, like I said, investors are going to be bullish in this market. And they don't want to miss an opportunity. It's
true. Yeah.
So we've been pretty steady. Luckily.
And you're an investor yourself?
I'm an investor myself.
Yeah. What kind of strategy? What's your focus?
So we started with single family homes. Pulled out the equity out of those single family homes and then went into multi-units. Started off with duplexes, then went into bigger units. So the biggest one that we have right now is a 10-unit building, which we're working on renovating right now. So outside of that, we've gone into land assembly. So that's the next project. Never done it before. It's kind of like our little first baby project. We'll see how it goes. And we also run an Airbnb right now. So for me, it was kind of something that I was exposed to through the industry. For me, I'm like, all I want to do is be a lawyer. I want to practice law. But then as I saw all these people with money, investors investing all their money into real estate, I said, maybe this is a good thing to actually look into. So I had a lot of good guidance from a lot of clients who kind of pushed me into it early on. And that's just kind of something that I've set up on the side. Law is my enjoyment. I love being a lawyer. That's more of like a retirement plan for me.
Right. Yeah. And you say we, do you have a team or you have a partner? Or
it's actually me and my wife.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah. I do have another partner, my previous legal partner. We did buy a property together. So we're also investors and partnered up when it comes to investing in real estate. But majority of the investments that I've done have been with my wife.
Yeah. And you have children as well?
I have 2 girls.
Yeah. So just a note for any future guests. he was nice enough to bring a little gift for my 2-year-old, little Minnie Mouse there. So, no pressure on future guests, but the bar has been set. So thank you. I do appreciate that. Problem. As well as some marathon gear, which I will be rocking in the next episode.
I appreciate that.
No, thank you, man. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
We work hard for our kids at the end of the day, right? That's why we do what we do.
How old are yours?
4 and 1.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. 1 is, so you've, you are coming out of that, that first year is a lot, but you've been through it. So
yeah. It's fun. And it's fun to see how they interact with each other as well.
Yeah. I know. We're always discussing having a second or not.
Do it.
Yeah. I'd love to have, I love my daughter. I'm super into the dad girl, but I'd love to have a little son as well. So I know you don't get to choose, but just keep trying, right?
Yeah. Keep going until you get the son, and then it doesn't matter as long as the kid's healthy. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, of course, 100%. And it seems that your dad played a big role in your life as well. I saw one of your videos. I saw that you commented on your dad was your first mentor. So I don't know if you want to talk about him at all and his role.
Yeah. So like, I'll be completely blunt. My dad is probably like my biggest inspiration, but he came from nothing. My dad pretty much grew up poor. He was from India. He came here. He had me and my sister early on. And he worked odd jobs, selling flowers door to door. He did telemarketing. He was an engineer by profession back home. Right. But like a lot of immigrants, degrees are not really recognized in Canada unless you further your education here. So luckily, he was given a chance by a guy named Tony. I don't remember his last name. I should know his last name. So he basically hired my dad, took my dad on, and my dad commuted to Markham every day from Mississauga, which is I think like a 45-minute, 50-minute drive for maybe like 15 years. And eventually over time, Tony said that, I'm on my way out, I'm going to retire. Would you like to, take over the company? So we weren't in a financial position at that point to buy a company. This was back in 2001, right before September 11th, actually. Okay. My dad said 100%, like he wanted to seize the opportunity at that point because he knew he would never be given that opportunity ever in his life. So my parents actually pulled out equity out of their house at that time to put a down payment on this this business. And he took over the business back in 2001. And when September 11th happened, they shut down the borders, and my dad he's a distributor of engineering components. Okay. The company's called Rotator Products. So his old boss actually approached him and said, you know what, like if you want to walk away from the deal, even though everything was signed, you're like, I'm more than happy to kind of take this loss on because right now nothing's coming in and out of the US because that was our main, source.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. At that point. So our business is constantly moving. That's how like distribution works. So my dad said, no, like I give you my word, I'll take it on. So he grew the company. The company's been around for almost 60 years. Wow. It was focused mainly on crane and hoist. Now Rotator Products does crane and hoist. We do wastewater treatment. We do manufacturing, automotive, material handling. We do elevators, crane cabins. So we've also started manufacturing our own components in India. So we're a full service engineering distribution company. Okay. I help my dad with that side of the business as well. My dad's almost 70 and he's still working. He loves what he does.
Love that. Yeah.
But he's a hustler. So like I get my hustler mentality from my dad. Nice. I can't turn it off. And it's something that's just been instilled in me since day one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And love that he's still working. I feel like it's one of those things is, if he's going to retire,
can't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
We've tried.
I feel that. Nice. And so you're involved in the business as well.
I'm involved in the business as well. Yeah.
And so if and when he decides to retire, are you taking over the business? What does that look like?
So the business kind of runs itself.
Right. Okay.
We're more of an operations role.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't say that about my dad because he loves to micromanage everything. So he's involved from like the admin to the accounting to the engineering side of things. So it's something that kind of does run itself because we do have a really good team in place, which is important. Yeah. I think that they're kind of the reason why the company's flourished. But we don't know what we're going to do in the future. We have had some inquiries by some private equity companies in the past that have reached out. If you're ever looking to sell, let us know. Yeah. But as of right now, it's something that I would love to pass on to my kids if possible, right? Who knows what's going to happen?
And so, did you have any pressure to become a doctor or lawyer, or?
So it's funny. I actually went to school for engineering.
Okay.
I was in engineering for 3 years.
Yep.
And my dad's like, you got to get your engineering degree so you can come in and run the company.
Okay. So
I'm like, sure. So 3 years of doing engineering, I'm like, this is kind of boring. I really don't enjoy this.
Right.
And then I switched to criminology without telling my dad, and he was so upset. He's like, why wouldn't you talk to me? This and that. What are you gonna do with an arts degree? And I said, Dad, like I want to be a lawyer. I want to go to law school.
Yeah.
So all my electives from engineering, all my courses from engineering transferred as electives to criminology.
Okay.
So I had to do an extra year. I did 5 years undergrad. And then I went to law school in Windsor. And so he was a little bit happy. He's like, okay, at least he got into law school. He's not going to just, walk around and just work odd jobs. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with an arts degree. But in an Indian dad's head, he's like, what are you going to do with an arts degree? You got to be like you said, doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Yeah.
So after I got to law school, he was pretty happy. And then, I'm sure he's never said it. That I'm proud of you, but it's like the Indian dad thing. Right? They'll never tell you they're proud, but in their head, they're probably like, he did okay for himself, right?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know. I was curious because I know there's often that doctor, lawyer, or failure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool that your dad has such a work ethic that he's been able to pass on to you. And it's funny. I wanted to be a lawyer. I think I always say I wanted to be a lawyer. But I think
like a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, today I brought my lawyer jacket.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was because my grandfather put that in my head early on. So I was always like, I'm going to be a lawyer. But I'm pretty sure I knew nothing about it other than like, I used to love John Grisham books and my grandfather telling me that I was going to be a lawyer. So I definitely didn't go that path. But yeah, no, I have an interest in it anyways. So it's, but there's a lot. Like how long were you in school for it?
So after I had to do an extra year in undergrad, I did about 8 years in total.
Okay. Yeah.
8 years, long time.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like it's working out. So you switching gears a bit. Do you have a podcast of yourself or?
Yes. So it's like kind of like a startup podcast.
Okay.
It's not like this.
Right.
We're kind of in the preliminary stages. It's called Miratainment.
Yes.
I basically kind of took a spin off of Patrick Bet-David. He has his own company called Valuetainment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So hopefully I don't get sued for infringement. But Miratainment is something that kind of came to my mind after my friend Harpreet. He has his own podcast as well, his own company called HS Media.
Okay.
So I spoke on a couple of other podcasts, and he said you should start your own. Mm-hmm. So we've started something. It's just kind of a startup. We don't know where it's gonna go.
Right.
It's fun. We just have conversations like this.
Yeah.
But we're trying to kind of go that route of starting our own.
What kind of topics are you discussing? What's the direction, or you're not really sure yet?
Mainly, so it's funny because we're actually not sure, where we want to take it or what the topics are. But literally, we've had a realtor. I think we've only had realtors, to be quite honest. But we talk about same thing: real estate law, what's happening in the market, life as well.
Right.
The next one that I'm doing with Ritesh, he's a realtor at EXP. We're going to talk about kind of this new thing that's happening on social media where a lot of people are promoting like the lifestyle of like the nice watches, the nice cars. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but we're trying to send a message where those things are great and you should definitely strive to attain those things, but you should also focus more on investing in yourself and investing in assets, right? As cliche as it sounds, everyone's talking about investing in assets, but I think a lot of times that may send the wrong image to people where it's like, okay, I got to look good first. I got to drive a nice car. I got to have a nice watch. I got to wear a nice suit. Yeah. And then I'll start investing in those assets.
Right. So well, unless you're selling courses.
Yeah.
If you're selling courses, you got to do all that.
Look good.
You got to do all that stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's important to look good because when you look good, you feel good.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people should understand that those things will come with time, right?
Right.
So
do the things now that will allow you to have that stuff later, exactly. Right? Yeah. So are you going to, you've mentioned Patrick Bet-David a bit. Are you going to get into the political space like him or?
I don't think so. No.
He really kind of took a right turn there and has gotten really into the political space. I've been following him for years too, and he's great content, but I mean, I'm sure it's changed some of his viewership a bit, just in the sense that it's a big shift into, I could see him, and I think he's talked about if he was actually American, him getting into politics.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see it. You know, he's got the mind for it, but him not being American born, he wouldn't be able to run for president anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I like about Patrick Bet-David is he doesn't really like give a shit.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of getting canceled, nor will I think would he ever get canceled. Same thing with Joe
Well, he
Rogan.
can't. He's created his own media company. He can't get canceled.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, him being, you know, I think he was the first one to interview Tate after.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's definitely, you know, set himself in his own lane to be able to do that. And I mean, I don't think you should be worried about being canceled. You can't go around living your life like that. So.
And he has a proven track record as
well,
right?
Absolutely, man. And he's got fuck you money. So, you know, he's like,
exactly.
he doesn't need to worry about being canceled at all. He can continue to fund his own endeavors. What other podcasts are you into?
So I watch Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I think everybody watches Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Definitely Patrick Bet-David. He's probably my favorite so far. I got into him when he interviewed Kobe Bryant. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
That was like way back in the day. But I watch his videos like daily just because they're inspiring as well. But I also watch something called, I think the channel's called Uninterrupted, The Shop. So it was by Maverick Carter, LeBron James.
Yeah.
So they'll have like Tom Brady. They've had Jay-Z. Yeah. They've had a couple of different artists and sports.
Yeah. I love the way they. Sorry to barge in. I love the way they match up the guests, the multiple guests that they have. They'll have like people from different industries and different backgrounds. It's a cool conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not, and the conversation is not necessarily just based on sports or just based on music, but based on life and very cool concept.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite, but I don't think they've had episodes recently.
Yeah. I used to watch it on Crave. I'm sure it's on YouTube as well, but I don't have Crave anymore. So it's just not in front of my face, but I don't know what happened. I guess, I mean, LeBron probably can't keep up with it with his schedule,
He's
but
too busy.
Yeah.
Running a liquor company and
but honestly, it gave me another perspective on him as well. Right. Like, not just on the court. So, but you're a big basketball fan as well, right?
Huge. Yeah, I grew up playing. Yeah.
I saw one of your photos. You had a Vince Carter in the background.
Yeah. So in our office, we have a poster, and it's a photo of Carter doing his infamous through the legs dunk.
Yeah.
And it says, "It seems impossible until it isn't." Right? Just to kind of inspire people. A lot of people, I feel like they have this mental block that they can't accomplish things. Yeah. So our office is just full of inspiration. We have inspirational artwork all over just to kind of motivate the staff. Yeah. So that's my favorite piece because I am a huge Raptors fan, even though we suck right now.
I love Scotty Barnes. So.
Yeah. I mean, I have nothing but love and respect for the Raptors. I'm a season ticket holder. I've been a season ticket holder for 8 years. Yeah.
I saw you on your photo with a super fan.
Matia. Yeah, great guy. So, I love basketball. Kobe's probably my favorite player. Number 2, I'd say 100% Vince Carter, only because he put Toronto on the map for basketball. Yeah. But Kobe, because just his mentality, right? I got 2 Kobe photos in my office. One, which is a piece of art that my friend's wife created for me. It's a photo of Nipsey Hussle and Kobe Bryant. Nice. She sketched it with hand, and it has her logo in the middle. So those are 2 of my, probably not mentors, but 2 people that I look up to. I mean, Kobe was, he was a monster on the court and off the court as well, right? And then obviously Nipsey Hussle was just, he just thought differently, right?
Yeah, for sure.
About life. So
well, and it was huge just because of his environment where he comes from. To have those thoughts was just, unlike pretty much anyone that was around him. Correct, so it's a special person when they can come up with those ideas and those thoughts on their own when they're faced with such, opposing factors. Yeah,
for sure.
So it sounds like your office isn't your typical law office then.
No. So, I mean, we don't have books of precedents and case law. We might get those in the future. Everything's online anyways, but no, it's a little bit more of a kind of like a vibe that you guys have here. It's like a very comfortable, laid back vibe. Not to say that we don't work hard, but we try to create it in a way where people actually enjoy coming to work. Definitely a lot of inspiration. We have a lot of mentorship in our office as well. We have people that usually come every month and kind of train the staff, help them out. We have some people come in and try to motivate the staff as well.
So what's the goal? What's the future plans? Do you plan to expand the company?
Yeah, so I think the plan for Marathon Law is definitely expand. We definitely want to go a little bit outside the GTA as well. We want to move towards Hamilton, London, because those are obviously emerging markets. Yeah. Would love to actually come to this end as well. Bowmanville, Durham region, Oshawa, Whitby, Ajax, Pickering. Right now, most of our business is done in Toronto and the GTA, and obviously Vaughan, because that's where we're located. But definitely want to expand in the future. Yeah. Right now, I think we're pretty content because we're busy with them. Like, we're only able to sustain so much with the staff that we have.
Right, for sure.
But I think the long-term plan is definitely to grow the company 100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good, man. Yeah. Well, I hope you keep going with the podcast and the content, and we'll follow the journey. We'll link all your stuff in the description below. And thank you so much for coming today, man. I appreciate it. It was like a little law masterclass that I really want people to be able to kind of like gather some value from that and have a clearer picture when going into transactions. I mean, investors, they might have a better idea of kind of how it works, but especially for newer buyers. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate the love and support, and thanks for having me on.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining the Little Did You Know podcast. My name is Morgan Little. Big shout out to Nikhil for coming by, giving us a law masterclass. It was wonderful. We'll put all his links in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and let's get it.